Good evening, everybody. Welcome in. The On Texas Football Tuesday live stream is live. It's day one of pads popping at UT camp, day in practice number 6. I want to welcome everybody in. I'm Aaron Hogan. He is Rod Babers. He is CJ Vogel. Matthew produces, and we're off and running on what we hope is a not too eventful day on the 40 acres. We'll talk about the lead story coming up, but it was over 100 degrees today in Austin, and the Longhorns were practicing in full pads, full body armor for the first time in this training camp of 2024 as they got out of the shells, got out of the just helmets, and we're going popping, getting ready for a scrimmage on Saturday. And we're going to talk about it with you on all the storylines of the first 6 practices and what's to come. But let's jump in right now, guys, with the lead story. CJ, you have the latest on a potential injury, which, Steve Sarkisian said Tuesday or Monday after practice at the availability that, if you're you got to play like it's game day. That's why they're practicing in the heat of the day, which they will do on the 31st against, Colorado State, practicing in the middle of the afternoon. But he said, we got to be physical. We got to play it like a game day. But what you hear in that or you worry about is injuries. Those could happen at any point, but it does sound like there might have been an injury to worry about coming out of the first padded practice today.
Yeah, definitely. We posted earlier today on Texas Football. We were monitoring. On Texas Football was monitoring an injury that might have occurred earlier today at practice, the first padded practice of fall camp. Of course, since then the name has been released. It is CJ Baxter, the starting running back here at Texas. He has been taken from Moncrief after practice over for an MRI. I spotted crutches as I was leaving the facility. So worth mentioning that, hey, we don't know the severity at the moment, but we do know that he is headed to go undergo an MRI at the moment. Again, hopefully it's not the worst, right? It is just day one of practice, but we are aware of this situation, and we can confirm that this is the plan in place for running back CJ Baxter. And hey, if there's a silver lining, we've been talking about depth everywhere across this board. I've heard great things about Jaden Blue, who we got to speak to earlier today at the player availability. Got to reach out a little bit about Trey Wisner and some of the freshmen. Heard great things about them as well. So next man up, obviously wishing the best and a speedy recovery for CJ Baxter. Us CJ's got to stick together here, but wishing the best here and the coming out of this MRI later tonight.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that, and obviously crutches and an MRI. We're not going to speculate on the severity, Rod. Injuries were a bit of an issue for CJ last year, but you just never know. You plant wrong, anything can happen, and whether you're padded or not. But that's the biggest fear of any training camp is losing a significant piece to your team for a significant period of time. And again, there's still 25 days till the opener. That's we won't speculate, but obviously that's the biggest fear of any training camp.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's very unfortunate. We're all hoping for the best, of course, but I'm just taking it back to the team because CJ Baxter, he's a warrior. He'll recover no matter what it is, no matter how severe it is, whether it be this season or something else. I've met the young man. He's got a great spirit. So he's a hell of a player. So he'll come back, and injuries are a part of football, unfortunately. Whether you deal with them at college level or the NFL level, they're going to happen at one point, and it's something everybody's got to deal with and overcome. I'm confident he will. Getting back to the team, you did have 2 players on the Doak Walker Award watch list, right? Jaden Blue's a part of that. You got I believe, the best running back room in the country, just in terms of culture overall. Last 2 years, you've had multiple running backs drafted in the NFL draft. That's rare. Tashard Choice is one of the great young coaches in this profession, and you've dealt with injuries at that running back position. You dealt with it last year, literally, and then next man up. There's a next man up philosophy in that room, and very much feels like, and they're very supportive of one another. We've heard numerous stories about that, whether it be going back to the Bijan Rojo days or whether they're talking about even last year when Jay Brooks went down and he being one of the most avid and biggest supporters of Cedric Baxter and Jaden Blue. Even Cedric Baxter at times advocating that Jaden Blue get in the game and get certain touches like during the game. Like that's how close this group is. So they're really close. I really do. I think in that room, there's something special going on. We talk about that culture. So I actually am not pessimistic about the drop off in productivity. We assumed when Bijan and Rojo left, oh man, there's going to be a drop off in that room. no drop off. We assume when Jay Brooks got hurt, oh man, it's gonna be a drop off in that room. No drop off. That room is special, so I think they'll be okay. But it's very upsetting and disappointing, of course, because Cedric Baxter. We were all excited about the year that he was going to have. I mean, that probably had a chance to potentially lead the SEC in rushing because there was no great running backs in the SEC this year. He could have taken that kind of ascent. So we're hoping for the best.
Hoping for the best.
I wanted to chime in real quick, Aaron. I do not know if it was a contact or non-contact. I don't know the severity. I don't think anybody truly does at the moment. Again, that's why we're waiting on this MRI this evening to kind of give us the facts here about, what is the future for CJ Baxter. I do not know, again, if it was contact or non-contact at the moment.
Yeah. And Sark did say on Monday that going full pads, going thump, getting ready for Saturday's scrimmage where you start to really parse through the depth chart and build 1, 2, 3 and beyond. He says you have to practice football in which the way it's played on game day. That's what we'll do tomorrow. And that's just part of the game. It happens. Same time, if there's a blessing to or an optimistic part of the injury potentially happening on the first day of padded practice, Rod, it would be that if it's not season ending and it's a strain of some kind of a knee, then you still have 25 days till the start of the season. You still have a Colorado State game where, he wouldn't be necessarily somebody you'd have to lean on to beat the Rams. Those are kind of that, you'd rather it happen early in camp than late in camp, I guess would be the point if it's going to happen.
Yeah. There's no question. I mean, but, this is something Sark has been, unfortunately, because he knows it's a reality in football, right? Every year, your team, whether you're an NFL fan or a college football fan, or hell, even you're following your son on high school football team, injuries are going to happen. You just know. You don't know where, you don't know exactly when in the season, and you don't know if it's going to hit, one of your vital positions where you don't have a lot of depth, knocking on wood. But it's good. That's why Sark's been talking about the depth on the team and getting a lot of guys to play and playing through, a 17-game schedule all the way through the end, how they're going to need everybody in the talented depth. He knows this because everybody does. It's inevitable. And oftentimes you go look at the teams who make a championship run, whether it be NBA, Major League Baseball, in NFL, college, go look at the injury luck. A lot of times there's a really good injury luck that not all the time, there's exceptions, but most of the time you got some injury luck there where you don't have injuries at key positions. So Sark knew this was coming, and Sark has talented depth at a lot of areas, whether you're talking about quarterback, wide receiver, O-line, on defensive end position at the edge. I think you're at running back is supposed to be one of those positions too. So it's going to be tested. You just don't know at what point in the season. And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be tested really early for Texas.
Matthew, can you bring up the latest On Texas Football tweet as well? I wanted to mention this. We're told here at On Texas Football that Baxter did not hear a pop, which is good. That would normally indicate a ligament of some sort. Again, waiting on MRI to kind of determine what the actual injury sustained was. But right now we're reporting here at On Texas Football that Baxter did not hear a pop. That's, in my eyes, as someone who has zero medical, studying or any kind, but that's normally a good sign there. So again, hoping for the best here, hoping for a speedy recovery, hoping to see Baxter on the field by the end of fall camp and going into, week 1 or early in the season, 100%.
Yeah, you just hope it doesn't cost a young man his season because obviously a tear would do that. Surgery would come beyond it, and let's cross our fingers for the best because still a lot of football to be played. I haven't been in a game yet, and the first game's not for more than 3 weeks. But to Rod's point about the injury and the depth in the room, I mean, gosh, we talked and gushed about, and Sark did too last week about Trey Wisner being a guy that we got to get him on the field somehow. Jaden Blue, talent all over the backfield. There's a couple of young guys in there too, and CJ, you followed recruiting. For folks who don't know, Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark and what those guys can be if they're called to action. That's the luxury, and that's what 4th year of recruiting and recruiting classes into Tashard Choice can be, even if you have a significant injury to CJ Baxter.
It's going to be interesting, right? We've talked about it. We've heard about it. There's been 2 guys really this offseason that have kind of won the talk of the town Olympics, right? It feels like Texas is always in contention for the gold medal in the offseason award trophy, right? I'm obviously comparing this to the Olympics, but those two guys, it's been Juan Davis, who we heard a lot about today, from Gunnar Helm and some of the guys we spoke to today, but also, Trey Wisner, and that's been dating back a little bit to the spring. And I think at times, even in last fall, when Trey Wisner late in the year against Texas Tech got an opportunity for some carries and some touches against Texas Tech. And if you go back and look at some of the tape that he put on, whether it be special teams or whether it be that series or two that he got against Texas Tech, just the way that he plays football, it's very encouraging. It's exactly what you want as a young running back in the sense that he's not afraid of contact. He actually, looks out and, it goes forward to contact. But two, when he scored that touchdown against Texas Tech and he returns to the sideline, Texas is up 49 points at the moment, eventually 50. But that entire sideline goes nuts. And Rod, you know what it's like for guys who maybe haven't gotten their run at the moment or maybe have put in a lot of work, but are just behind a lot of guys. For them to get that first moment of celebration where they went out and achieved something that they've been striving for all season long, it means a lot to those guys. So going back to see how that team kind of carried, that momentum of that touchdown for Trey Wisner, very encouraging. Of course, Texas also has a pair of freshmen that they're looking forward to having very long and successful careers here in Austin as well, that being Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark, both of whom Bobby Burton and I got to talk about a little bit earlier this morning on the live practice recap. Hey, they look good. And we both made a point that it's been almost 5-6 practices for all of us to have watched in person so far, and I've yet to see a running back drop a ball on the ground in the passing game. Very encouraging. Also gives you an idea of what Tashard Choice, emphasizes in practice and how Sarkisian likes to utilize these guys in their offense as well. So next man up, again, we'll update when we can on CJ Baxter moving forward with what is expected to be a knee injury in an MRI currently.
Yep. And Rod, that Bobby's been high on Christian Clark. And I remember Jerry telling me that Jarrett Gibson maybe has the best looking running back body of any of the running backs. He's like 5'9.5", not 5'10". He's got the low center of gravity, big body, big legs, just looks the part of a running back. And, that's a position where, guys can flash early if they need to. Longhorns haven't needed that in a while because they've been so deep with Bijan, Roschon. Then it's Jonathan Brooks and CJ Baxter. So Jaden Blue's waiting. So it does feel like there is depth. And as this text says, or message says that, IMG Academy, that kind of prepares you for football. Maybe you're a little advanced with that, but Gibson's ready physically, likely had a most true freshman mentally as well. And that's what you're talking about, that if there is an injury that is significant, that there is next man up opportunities within that room.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, if it was another room, I'd be more concerned, but I'm concerned more about CJ Baxter individually as a player. More so than I'm concerned about the lost productivity at that position. And that's not saying CJ Baxter isn't special. He is. Man, that running back room, I'm telling you, like I said, there should have been a drop-off after Bijan and Rojo left. The only drop-off after Bijan and Rojo left really was red zone offense. That's what really hurt you. That's the Bijan Rojo hangover effect. That's where you saw it. But you didn't really see it in the running game overall. Still was really explosive. The running game still was pretty consistent. And even when Jay Brooks went down, you still had 100-yard rushers and Jay Blue at one point in a game and CJ Baxter. So like I said, and we know Tashard Choice is also a very special coach. CJ tells the story, a really good story about how meticulous he is when it comes to coaching. Even guys like Bijan Robinson. So I think that running back room will be ready to go. The running back room will be ready, and I think I think it's going to affect the pony package that I love so much. But Trey Wisner will step in, and I think they'll be looking for another third back potentially. But you may not get as many 2-back sets early on if the injury is serious and CJ's out, because you just don't have the depth for it, right? So you might get more of your single back sets, your 12 personnel, your 11 personnel, which Sark loves. That's 50% of the offense anyway. And, you may get, just so they can rotate those guys instead of having two backs out there. I was hoping you'd get that a lot more, but that was when you had an embarrassment of riches at the running back position. So it may not have that. So it'll change some things strategically, that you want to do, schematically that you want to do. But like I said, that running back room, man, I don't know if there's a better running back room in the country culture-wise than it. And I think it'll, like I said, like it did last year, I think it could withstand some injuries because it's got that kind of depth.
All right. We will certainly keep you posted on Texas football, on Twitter, on texasfootball.com, and here on the On Texas Football channel. As it happens, we will let you know. Let's move off of that. CJ, you were at the practice today. It was pretty warm out there, over 100 degrees. I do think there's an intentionality about that with Sark, because he says you got to play like it's game day. Texas is going to play Colorado State in the middle of the afternoon, so why not practice in the middle of the afternoon in full pads for the first time? Make sure everybody understands what's coming. There's a scrimmage on Saturday. What were your practice notes today while you were out there?
Yeah, well, Aaron, you're 100% right. It was very hot out there. We only saw about 15 minutes of time in terms of what the media was allotted today. And let me tell you, I was walking back pretty drenched in my shirt. Wish I had a spare one. But we only saw some stretching, some special teams. But we did hear afterward some good remarks about whenever the team went into that kind of offense versus defense team situations towards the end of practice. A couple notes here. I'll start with first play in the team period was actually a touchdown from Quinn Ewers to Isaiah Bond, who made a really impressive diving catch over the middle of the field on what appears to be a post route here. You see him making the snag here. Thank you, Matthew, for tossing that up there. I can't tell exactly who the cornerback he beat, but that is Andrew Mukuba coming back over the side there as well. The offense had a really impressive day in the red zone, I'm told, and that goes from Quinn Ewers to Arch Manning. Jaden Blue had a nice touchdown run off of the outside zone, stretch zone that found the end zone in the red zone. Arch stepped up in the pocket, found DeAndre Moore for a quick touchdown over the middle. And then there's another touchdown early on from Quinn Ewers to one of the other young receivers on the roster right now. I was not given the name of exactly who that might have been, but Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers, great success early on in the red zone. Hey, we've talked about it all summer, Rod. They finally put the pants on, the pads on too, and it appears that some of those red zone issues might have been remedied a little bit, but they're starting up practice strong there. Real quick, I also wanted to mention Warren Roberson made a pretty impressive play on a corner route. And again, one of the question marks that maybe we have going into the full football season here is cornerback depth. If that's a guy that can step up and become a guy that Texas can rely on to give them several series per game, that's a great development for the defense in its entirety. He made a nice play in which he was playing kind of the flat routes, had a corner route over the top of him, was able to drop back, make a deflection, and force an incompletion. So all in all, I'm told offense, great start to fall camp in terms of the pads on, the physicality, as well as executing in the red zone. Obviously, big question mark now becomes who and where does that running back room lean on now outside of Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner?
Yep. Well, and again, we'll cross our fingers that it's not long-term, maybe a shorter-term thing where some guys can get some reps that maybe they wouldn't have gotten. And you can build towards the Colorado State game, Michigan beyond that, in the month of September. Hey, Rod, as he says, Quinn Ewers throwing touchdown passes to a variety of receivers, Arch Manning stepping up. I wanted to talk a little bit about the quarterbacks. And, Sark has been very specific about Quinn stepping into a leadership vacuum where really they needed it, right? I mean, it was, Bijan and Roshan's team a couple years ago. Last year, JT Sanders, Jordan Whittington were more vocal. The guys kind of leading that offense. I mean, Sark talked on Monday, I thought was interesting about, Quinn, at this point, you can't have a bad day. Even if you're having a bad day, you can't showcase a bad day. You got to really be the thermometer in the room. And I would go back to when CJ and I were up in Dallas for SEC Media Days, and we saw Quinn looking like the swagger guy. You've been in the middle of locker rooms, Rod, where there are quarterback controversies. You've been in the room when there's a quarterback that is specifically everybody knows that's our dude, that's our guy. And then, the worst part is if you have a quarterback that everybody knows isn't very good, that's got to be the worst feeling in the world as a team. But speak to that with me about being in a locker room where you've got a third-year quarterback who's acting like he's a third-year quarterback, that everybody understands, okay, if we all do our job, that guy's going to deliver, and we got a guy. We got a dude that can help us win football games, and the confidence that brings into your locker room.
Yeah, I mean, we got into this yesterday when we were talking a little bit about Sark's comments on Quinn's leadership and talking about he can't have a bad day. I think you can take that twofold, right? You can look at that as a third year starting quarterback in this system. There should be a certain baseline of consistency, and even Sark talked about that, right? The reliability factor with his players. Some guy, we need to have consistency so we can trust that you're going to have a certain level of play when we have you in the game at any position, no matter what it is, especially at quarterback. So third year, you should have a baseline, and your baseline should be he's practicing every day like an all-conference player, all-American player, whatever your level of your baseline should increase every year, right? At your first year as a starter, second year, third year. By my third year as a starter, Rod B is I'm an all-conference practice player every day, right? Every day you get the consistent amount of play from me. And that's what you want from Quinn. But then I think what he's talking about also about not having a bad day. You got to bring the energy at times, right? There are going to be times when you're going to have to read the huddle, kind of read the room, and there are going to be different players that may need different. They may need something different from you, different types of encouragement and support. Maybe some guys you got to motivate a little differently. At this point, I'm gonna need you as a quarterback to be able to feel the kind of the energy with your team. Maybe they do need the hype pep talk beforehand. Maybe at that time some guys do need encouragement. Maybe some guys need to be held accountable in that moment, whatever it may be. And you need to feel what that moment is lacking. All right. And some guys, listen, if you understand there's some guys on your team, they're going to bring that energy. They're going to bring that positivity. They're going to bring that vibe that's needed. And that's why he brought up Rojo and Bijan when he talked about that comment. He brought up JT Sanders. He brought up some of the other guys, Jay Witt, that I think brought that type of energy to the offense. All right. And in game after game or practice after practice, Quinn didn't have to worry about bringing that energy or supplementing that type of vibe, whatever it may be, that encouragement, that support. But now without those guys and with a lot of newcomers on the team, without maybe Christian Jones was that guy, without those, hey, now Quinn, I need you to bring it. And Kwame Cavill used to always say don't ever underestimate the power of false enthusiasm. Because there are times we don't want to be out there and you're having a bad day and you and your woman ain't getting along and you had a bad day in school and you're not feeling like it. You may be sick that day, whatever it is, you know what I mean? You don't want to be out there, but everybody's reading you. You're the quarterback. You know what I mean? You're a natural leadership position. So your vibe, people are gonna feed off of it. All right. So if you're hype and you got high energy and you're positive, everybody feeds off that. And encouragement and support from the quarterback means more than it means from somebody else on that team because he's the quarterback. And that's kind of what Sark's saying. Is like recognize who you are. You're the quarterback now, and there is no debate about your leadership here with this team. There's some idiots talking about you and Arch, but those are idiots, who don't know what's really going on. It's your team, Quinn. Everybody knows that. So you should embrace that. And then also understand that because of that role and responsibility, everybody's looking to you and your body language and the way you carry yourself and the way you greet all your teammates when you come into the room. And all that little stuff now matters even more than it used to because you don't have, Bijan and Rojo and Jay Witt and, JT Sanders and X-Man. You ain't got all those guys there. And they probably brought a lot of that themselves. And they had a lot of attitude, a lot of mojo, a lot of swagger. Now I need you to have it. The team needs some swagger, you bring it. If they need positivity, you bring it. If they need encouragement, you should do it. If they need a pep talk and need to kick in the ass, I need you to be the man that's going to do it. Like that's what it is. And if you want to be drafted as a franchise quarterback, that's what the scouts want to see. Leader of men. And I think that's kind of what he's looking for. And that's why he's saying I've seen so much of that improvement in him because that's a lot to ask from someone who when it doesn't come natural to you. It is.
Yeah. That's a great point. All of them, Rod. I mean, it really, really is because again, you think about Quinn and the guys he had to lean on his first year when he's battling Hudson Card and winning the job. And then those guys were just such natural leaders in the running back room. Last year it was JT Sanders, who likes to have a good time, and Jordan Whittington, Xavier Worthy. Those guys are all gone now. And the receivers are battling for positions. Running backs are battling for spots and reps, and the linemen are the linemen. He's got to be the guy. And I love that because I was thinking, as Rob was saying that, CJ, of the great Super Bowl story of Joe Montana. when he's leading the Niners down to beat the Bengals. And he sensed in the huddle that everybody's like on edge and nervous because we got to go 90 yards to win this Super Bowl. And he said, "Hey, man, there's John Candy. Is that John Candy over there?" Holy cow. Which, like, to a player of the 10 guys, they go, "Man, we just relaxed. We're like, he's chill. We're chill." Yep. That is a great point, Rod. And that's, the greats have it. I don't know if Quinn will ever be a great. We'll see. But that's what Sark is saying is you need to know what your huddle needs right now. Like, do they need to calm down? Do they need a pep talk? Do they need a kick in the butt? You're the thermometer in that room. And that's I mean, I think as we follow this team in the course of what can be a very, encouraging and exciting 2024 season, Quinn's going to be called upon on multiple occasions to figure out what that temperature is.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's why I think Sark is proud of him. Yeah. Sark is watching him. He's watching him and he's watching them in those moments. Because Sark is a quarterback.
Yeah.
Sark knows all of this. Sark knows, like, all right, it's time for you to be that guy. And I'm proud of Quinn. I think, and like I say, it's not natural to him, but I believe he's going out of his way because he understands the assignment now. Yeah. And part of that is reading the room as a quarterback. And like I said, my best friends on the team was a quarterback at the time. I remember but he was from an NFL background, so he already knew his dad was a quarterback. So he already knew how to conduct himself and that the team is always watching you and that everybody wants your time as a quarterback, with the team. You can't just hang out with the guys you're closest to because, hey, man, some of the other guys, the O-line wants time with the quarterback. Wide receivers want time with the quarterbacks. And, hey, the defense, they want the quarterbacks to show them some love. So it's a delicate balance, man. It's not easy. I've watched it. People think it's easy. It's like, no, it's not easy because you basically now you are the face of the team. And when you've competed and won the job, now more people want your time. And even with his obligations with NIL and all that kind of stuff, I think he's realized, like, okay, and I gotta bring it every time. I gotta bring it all the time. I can't have that down day or that off day, because even when I'm walking campus and the fans see me like, "Quinn, what's up, man? Quinn," you can't be like, "Oh yeah, what's up, guys? I'm not really feeling it." Hey, because that's gonna get around. Like, remember, ask Spencer Rattler. You're an a-hole on campus, it gets around. And we can't be that. You got, when people on campus to greet you, got to be like, "Hey, what's up? Good to see y'all. Take some pictures, baby. Let's go. It can be exhausting. And I give him credit because I think now he understands this is part of it. And with great talent comes great responsibility. You're the starting quarterback at Texas, baby. You get all the girls, but you get all the grief. It's all good. And you'll get the green too. You get it all. But you got to ball out that spot.
Hey, and the private jets and the Lambos.
And the private jet, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm acting like it's a hard job. Yeah, it's hard, but it comes with a lot of benefits.
Yeah. Especially when you got a good team around you, right? You're going to have some nice success there. Also, it could be part of the memes if that success doesn't come back, right? The whole Sam Ehlinger, we're back kind of situation. But anyway, I did want to bring up Gunnar Helm. We got to talk to him. We talked to Baron Sorrell, David Binda, and Jaden Blue today as well. Here are the player availabilities after the first padded practice. I wanted to kind of bring up what Gunnar Helm had to say about Quinn's leadership. He basically called it night and day from when he first arrived, right? And, I think that's to be expected to an extent, right? You are the quarterback. However, to walk into a brand new, program with brand new coaches and a brand new team in which you're expected to lead from day one, that's a daunting task. Going into year 3 as the guy, there's no more questions. And to Gunnar Helm's point, he got to sit back and said, when Quinn speaks, he commands the respect and attention from everybody in that program right now. And it's been a change. When we're in the huddle, when we're getting the play calls, maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago, you could sit back and look at Quinn and maybe not fully sense that confidence or that kind of commanding demeanor from a quarterback that you would expect. Now it is night and day from then to now. And it is Quinn walking in saying, "This is my team. This is my huddle. This is my offense. Let's see what we can accomplish today." Of course, they got a talented offensive line. Gunnar talked about also what that tight end room is going to bring to the table this year. He was asked, what can this tight end group bring to the offense this year? Before saying anything else, he said, it's going to be a lot of grit. So take that for what it's worth. I think last year maybe there was a little bit of grit, but that grittiness goes into the dirtiness that you see in the trenches at times. Getting your hand in the dirt and hitting that guy across from you, that's probably going to be 270 to 300 pounds in the SEC. So that was very encouraging to hear, in the sense that the tight ends are taking that next step in terms of the pass blocking game, the vertical passing game, but also getting down and dirty with it in the running game as well.
Great, I like that. Man, see, Gunham, I love the way he talks. He almost has a motivational speaking element to the way he talks. This is like the second or third time I've seen him with the media availability, and he's really impressive. He seems very determined. He just seems like he's very matter of fact and determined, and he knows exactly what he wants, goals he wants to achieve. Grit, I like that, which is essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about strength of character, right? Yeah. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about grit. You're talking about strength of character, resolve. That's an interesting term to throw out there for a football player. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I saw your tweet with him talking. That was good stuff. CJ, follow CJ on Twitter, of course, and the On Texas Football channel with all of those conversations. It is good stuff about these quarterbacks, Quinn, and where they're going. Rod, I know you know this, and then we're going to tell you about our friends at Allstate. Our man Mark Saunders here coming up, one of our partners here tonight. But when I always think about this with Quinn, because Quinn was, he made decisions. He didn't go to his senior year, went to Ohio State, came back, battling. Fans, I know, and you know this, Rod, fans and CJ, Rod, you want the quarterback to be a finished product before he's ready to be a finished product. Mm-hmm. And I remember Craig Way telling us about the most shy quarterback he ever covered was Colt McCoy. When Colt McCoy was a young baby, Craig always tells about, when Vince up and left after his junior year, after winning the national championship, and Colt was the quarterback, he said there was not a more shy interview than you've ever. He's from Tuscola, Texas. He doesn't talk very loud. He's got this twang. He's not sure about himself, and all of a sudden he's thrust into being the starting quarterback at the University of Texas. Just won the Natty. Holy cow! And he's got to handle that. He had this drawl. He didn't like to talk on the media or talk on interviews, and you had to draw things out of him. And we all know what Colt McCoy became. One of the greatest college quarterbacks and one of the Texas best, Texas legend. Right. That's for fans watching. Sometimes you got to go through that, and every time you got to go through that at every position. But the quarterback's always in the spotlight. Yep,
that's a great example of it too, because Colt really didn't seek it. VY was natural, right? VY almost had this. He had swagger from day one. Even going back to Houston in high school, VY had that kind of swagger. Colt McCoy was more humble and more meek, but when you are the starting quarterback at Texas, you really don't have a choice. You're thrust into the spotlight, so you have to embrace it. And you got to the point where Colt, he had his own, he recognized, I have to have my own style of this leadership. I'm going to be thrust into the spotlight. I got to do it my way. And that's what I think all the Sam Ehlinger learned it. Like, once you're solidified as the starting quarterback in Texas, do it your way. And that's what we're looking for from Quinn. What's your way, Quinn? Do it whatever your way is, as long as you win games, but you can do it your own way with your own touch or style to it. And I think Colt did that. I think Colt did it. Did his own little country swagger with it. Was a little different than VY. And my man Sam's had his own way of doing it. So I think get it to fit your personality, because you want to be yourself, because you don't want to be disingenuous or inauthentic.
Yeah, you got to be authentic with it, whether they got genuine or you get seen right through. But it is a process. It's not something. Anybody's got kids. Anybody's got children that have gone through that. It's not. You can't make them become the adult that you want them to be until they're ready to be that. And, when you're in the spotlight of playing quarterback at Texas, there's certainly a growing up period. And I think we're seeing Quinn in that. I can't wait to watch him this year and have an Arch Manning behind him. He's already mature beyond his years as well. Hey, let me tell you about Mark Saunders and our friends at Allstate. We've dealt with storms all summer long. We've been flooded and hurricanes and crazy things out of nowhere, wherever you are in the great state of Texas and beyond. You think about, are you protected? All your stuff that you've got, right? Are you in good hands becomes the question real quickly. 35 years of experience you will be with the Texas alum Mark Saunders, the Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders. If you're actually not sure, maybe you think about it. Maybe you're thinking, am I for sure? Make sure you are. Everything from your home to your car to your boat, your motorcycles, RVs, ATVs, second houses if you have them out there. Everything under one umbrella and one plan. That's Mark Saunders. Looking for someone local. If you live in Austin, Round Rock, this is your go-to every time. Give Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office a call tomorrow, 512-218-8571, 512-218-8571. And again, ask yourself as you put your head on the pillow tonight, are you in good hands? More than 35 years of experience. You absolutely will be with the Texas alum Mark Saunders, one of our great partners here tonight on the Tuesday night live stream on the On Texas Football Channel. 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? And CJ, speaking of good hands, I wanted to bring that back to the start conversation of Monday evening where he talked about receivers. And, he was asked about Silas Bolden in his role, but he went on a pretty good 1.5, 2 minute rant discussion about the versatility of this year's receiver group. I think Rod can talk about it on the defensive backside too, but that, last year kind of each guy had their spot, had their position, but that, outside of Ryan Wingo, he felt like this year's group of maybe 5 or 6 guys can move wherever they need to be. You can play inside, you can play outside, you can play either side, whether it's Jonte Cook or DeAndre Moore or, Silas Bolden. He said, we're going to play them all over the field. Marcus Golden. These are guys that can be versatile pieces that the defense has to figure out where they are on a given play. You could almost see the gleam in Sark's eye, kind of back to the Alabama days where, I got options here. I can really scare a defense based on who's on the field where and what personnel group we're in.
Yeah, 100%. He mentioned that yesterday, Aaron, and in the sense that we've got 5 guys that I can move to each position on the field offensively. Ryan Wingo at the moment, it's week 1 of fall camp for him, still getting to learn every nuanced position, not only at the college level, but the Texas level as well, which, as we know, Rod, you've pointed it out in the past, A.D. Mitchell a year ago ran 37 individual, unique routes. It's pretty tough for someone who was used to probably a 6-route tree in high school coming into the next level now. So all of these guys, either DeAndre Moore, Jonte Cook, guys that have been in the system before, or Isaiah Bond, Silas Golden, Matthew Golden, they've all been a part of a college system, so they understand maybe some terminology that is similar to what they experienced at previous schools. I wanted to add this. We talked about some guys that stood out today in the first camp. Of course, I had been on the phone ever since we left the player availabilities, obviously, as a result of the CJ Baxter news. But it did sound like Texas was rotating all 6 guys with that first and second group, whether that be a platoon, whether that just be substitutions because somebody went long on a pass prior to, the next snap. But DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo, Isaiah Bond, guys that I'm told had touchdown receptions today. All of them kind of came mixed and matched with Arch Manning, with Quinn Ewers. So right now, again, we're hearing about, what those first 3 guys are looking at. I think that's going to be pretty fluid. I've heard Jonte Cook has had a lot of snaps with that first group as well. So it's going to be something that we continually see as a fluid situation as well. So that's certainly encouraging right there, that the sense that, hey, if one guy goes down, you got plenty of other options. And I don't mean to be a pessimist about injuries because those suck, right? They're not fun, but it is nice to know that there is versatility, there is depth, and there's sure as hell a lot of talent right now in that wide receiver room.
Nice, good stuff.
Yeah, and Ryan Wingo, is it fair to say, Rod, that he's kind of the Anthony Hill of this year where, don't ask him to do too much, just let him do his thing on the outside, and we'll let him learn like Anthony Hill was, and then, he'll get more inverted. We've got so many guys. And ask Anthony, speak to the receivers and the versatility. And as a defensive back, when you're seeing a different guy lined up across from you all the time and a different type of receiver, that gets challenging too for a defense when you've got multiple guys that you got to, not just the same guy you're lining up across all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose for Sark, right? He wants to be able to engineer matchup advantages, mismatches across the board. If you do want to take away a certain receiver, you really have no way to take them away unless you want to totally basically you would sacrifice the structural integrity of your defense to do so because he's moving around these pieces all the time, not only putting them in different positions from down to down and from drive to drive, but literally on the actual play, he's motioning, shifting, all right, 50, 55% of the time, and putting them in different places, even from where they're initially lined up, right? So he's just going to present problems to you. So nobody wants to forsake their structural integrity of their defense. So really hard to, double his receivers and roll coverage to certain receivers unless you're very malleable. And that's kind of the point there. And he does a really good job of it. In terms of defensive backs, like in terms of matching up with Sark's DBs, he's trying to basically do his best to get his receivers matched up on run defenders, basically safeties and linebackers. He's trying it. That's basically the whole point of having the receivers all learn every position so that he can engineer matchup advantages and get them matched up against guys who are not coverage specialists. And that's the genius of having to learn all those positions. But it's tough. Like, that's why the circle of trust, you don't get Sark's trust until you learn all the positions. And some guys, it takes them longer to learn all those positions because they're just not accustomed to it. For some guys, it's no big deal. I think for Ryan Wingo, it'll take him no time at all because even when they play him on the outside and he's learning that, he'll make so many plays that he's a prodigy. So Sark will expedite his development like he did Xavier Worthy. He'll be like, you know what, so by mid-season, I mean, the truth is Ryan Wingo, I don't know if he starts, but he's probably in the rotation as much as any receiver that they have now. And that includes the guys that end up starting. I think he could be that impactful by mid-season, just like Anthony Hill, just like Malik Muhammad, right? By mid-season, some of those guys are like, all right, they're basically starters for us by the end of the year. And Ryan Wingo could do that. I don't know if he'll start, but he'll get as many reps and snaps, I think.
Hey, CJ, before we preview the scrimmage coming up on Saturday and what's coming this week, can you give our audience, maybe that's tuned in halfway through here on our On Texas Football channel, latest on CJ Baxter? We started the conversation tonight with the latest that CJ did leave the facility on crutches, and he's going to have an MRI on a knee. What's the latest on that, CJ?
Yes. CJ Baxter is currently undergoing an MRI at the moment. He suffered a knee injury at practice. There is some fortunate news that we've picked up, hopefully fortunate news, in the sense that he did not believe to hear a pop in his leg, which typically lends towards more of a ligament damage. Of course, he did not finish practice. He did not put weight on his knee or his leg moving off the practice field and back to the facility. He was taken over to for his MRI earlier today. So right now, kind of awaiting word on what his MRI status will be moving forward, not only for himself, not only for spring ball, but also the future of the Texas football 2024 season. We got to talk to Jaden Blue today, who mentioned, of course, the duo of those guys, Jaden Blue and CJ Baxter, is one that all of them in that running back room are very excited for, as well as the Texas locker room in general. So right now, just a bit of a waiting game, obviously, hoping for the best for CJ Baxter. I mentioned earlier, us CJs got to stick together. So I'm hoping and praying that CJ Baxter will be back on the practice field before the beginning of the season. But it's just a waiting game right now to see what the results of those MRIs are as he undergoes further testing at the moment.
Hey, before we talk scrimmage and what's to come the rest of the week, Rod, I wanted to ask you about versatility on the offensive side with the receivers, but flip it over to the other side, because I heard you talking today about Jalen Gilbo getting first-team reps, and now maybe Jelani McCoy getting first-team reps. And we know, it almost sounded listening to you like, your idea is that they know what they have in Makuba and Jade and Derek Williams. Let's use these camp reps to figure out what we got in these other guys so we figure out where we're at and how versatile we can be. Thinking about, take us behind the scenes, what you think's happening with Blake Gideon, Terry Joseph, Pete Kwiatkowski on – why Jalen Gilbo is getting so many first-team reps. Now Jelani McCoy getting on the field. You hear when the fans get on message boards and start freaking out a little bit about that. Might be a good problem.
It is. I think that's my theory. I mean, just look, just watching ball, guys. Makuba's played more big-time football than anybody in that secondary other than Jade Barron, right? So the fact that those two guys aren't starting right now, it seems more than a little coincidental, right? It's like, okay, that's why they're not getting starting reps consistently, why other guys are getting more. I'm sure they're getting reps with the ones as well, but why Jalen Gilbo and Jelani McDonald also getting reps with the ones, I don't think it's because they're making a move necessarily to take their job. I believe the coaches, first of all, we're talking about an injury right now. So number one, you're manufacturing depth for an injury. You got two players, Jade Barron and Andrew Makuba, who can play any position in the secondary. Sark has basically said Jade Barron can play safety, and also PK has said it. So he can play nickel, he can play corner, he can play safety. Dabo Swinney on the record has said Makuba played nickel, corner, and safety for him. He can play any of them. So you got two guys who are your most experienced guys who played more big-time football than anybody, who can play any position in secondary. Those are your ultimate chess pieces. So put those guys to the side. You already know what they can do. I think Jalen Gilbo, because they've seen him ascend, PK even said it, if Jalen Gilbo continues to ascend, essentially earning their trust, that's going to give them flexibility to move around Jahdae Barron. And I think number one is safeguard you against injury, because you're trying to get your best 11 on the field. Say somebody gets hurt, knock on wood, you can, Jahdae Barron, go out there to play corner, or Makuba, we can move you down to nickel because we know we got safety depth. But I think it gives them options for injuries. I think number two, they want to empower these young guys, Jelani McDonald and Jalen Gilbo. I think they want to empower them and see how they perform now with, being empowered as a starter. We're now playing as a frontline starter. Do these guys, do they actually, improve their play? Do we see them take a leap as a result? Some guys go into a shell a little bit with that responsibility and a little bit more of that burden. But some guys shine in that moment. I think they want to see that. I think that's number two. And I think they want to continue to see Jalen Gilbo shine. And I've said, if you want Jahdae Barron to be a semifinalist for the Nagurski and for the Thorpe Award, you got to have a sales pitch. And the sales pitch should be simple. He's the most versatile defensive back in the country, period. He can play any position in secondary. And matchup-wise, week to week, you can do that, but you got to have somebody to stabilize the nickel. And now you got two guys. You got Jalen Gilbo and you got Makuba, who can stabilize the nickel for you. Essentially, you got three guys that can play nickel, probably the most important position in the back seven, in my opinion. And then another thing, I think they're also now, they may be done with these wholesale rotations in the back seven, which I think are a nightmare. Even defensively on the D-line, I think they're kind of a nightmare, but I understand why it's done on the defensive line. But I'm opposing offensive coordinator. I wait for Texas to put in their wholesale rotations of second-string guys, or backups, or rotational guys, and I have a certain set of plays that I run against those guys because my chance of success is much higher against them rather than the guys that start at the game. And you even saw that a little bit last season with some of the opposing offensive coordinators against Texas. So I think now we're going to more of a lineup mix and match approach, like NBA basketball, trying to see which lineups work better together and which one of these guys can play, instead of just let's put in the second team, and second team goes out there and they're exposed in different ways because they obviously aren't as capable as the first team guys. That's why they're starters. I think now you get more mixing and matching. And that's what they're trying to see too. What groups, what skill sets work well together and are compatible. That's my theory. Theories, plural.
I love it. And it dovetails back into my next conversation, CJ, about, what's coming Saturday, which is the full pad scrimmage. And, he said Saturday's big. Steve Sarkisian on Monday night said Saturday's big because that's when the coaches are off the field. The players have to get the call. They've got to get it in the right play. We've got to find out who we can count on, who we can trust. And what Rod just said, you can trust Makuba. You can trust Jahdae Barron, Manny Muhammad. But I love the way Rod said that some guys are going to, there's a human element that now all of a sudden Jelani McDonald's out there with, Jalen Gilbo. And it's like, hey, man, I'm running with the first team. Like, how do I handle this? I'm out here with all the best players. Yep. To Sark's point of Monday, why the scrimmage is important, we need to see how they react to that. How do they make plays? And when you're running the first team defense, you're probably facing the first team offense a lot of times. And so how do you handle that? Those are important things. And I love the way Rod said that, manufacturing depth. Let's figure out what we got here. We know we have some proven commodities that we can lean on when the season starts. Let's find out what Jelani McDonald is a plus athlete, what Jalen Gilbo, who we like a lot. But we'd have to see them under live fire. We got to see them in real time and how they react to that. Yeah,
I love that point, right? Especially whenever Texas will be off tomorrow, but Saturday they'll line up with one another for their first, fall scrimmage with no coaches on the field. They're live fire going with both the offense and defense going. Aaron, to your exact point, for guys trying to get on the field and earn that spot, it's going to be very important for them to be very precise with their calls, have that communication ready, and then, of course, to go play good football, especially in that secondary. And there's a number of positions that you could point to right now. Which of these running backs can you see picking up a blitz from Anthony Hill in pass protection? Yeah, which of them can help chip on a Trey Moore or an Ethan Burke? Those guys are large bodies that you're going to have to face in the SEC. You're going to have to prove that you're capable and willing to do that. Right now, this Saturday, in the lead up to the start of the season to earn those reps. On the defensive side of the ball, you mentioned Jelani McDonald. He's been getting first-team reps alongside Michael Taft. Rod, could that be a potential platoon? Who mixes and matches well with one another? You have a guy trying to earn his first true, snaps at the college level versus a guy who, many people are pointing as a future coach at the next level because of the way that he leads and communicates on the field. That's interesting. But also, in the sense of what's going to be a great test is, these guys are going to have to communicate so well early on that I think will bode very well for the actual season, right? You can't look at this Texas offense with all of the weapons that they have at wide receiver and say, if I don't know what I'm doing, at least I can just go over and cover over the top of Xavier Worthy and claim that, hey, I didn't know, right? Because now you got 3 guys that could potentially beat you over the top with their speed or just their pure athleticism and make you look a bit silly. I think a year ago, maybe you could get away with that at times if Texas was going into their 4th, 5th, maybe 6th wide receiver on the roster. This year won't be as much of a leeway there, which, again, a depth perspective. I wanted to bring up this comment from Sean. Last time CJ Baxter got injured, it was Jonathan Brooks who stepped up and put together what was a very encouraging run for the Doak Walker, right?
You're right.
Then later on in the year, it was Jonathan Brooks who goes down, and guess who stands up? It was CJ Baxter and Jaden Blue. It does feel like right now, and Rod, we've talked about it in the past, putting on that armor in the offseason. We expected this to be a big year, big offseason for CJ Baxter to kind of showcase that ability to, really gain weight, kind of fend off some of those nagging injuries that he was able or kind of dealing with a bit last year, right? Obviously, knee injuries are a fickle thing, and you never know when one might come or a step might go a different direction, or even a little divot in the ground might cause you to step incorrectly. So for that, it's very unfortunate because it did feel like he had taken the necessary steps to get his body right, to become the bell cow or one of the 2 bell cow guys that Texas is expecting to lean on this year. But Aaron, going back to what you brought up as a great point, next up, man, will be tested on Saturday. And, they're going to be tested against really talented defenses. They're going to have a great offensive line in front of them. Now it's about just going up and showcasing what they can do for the Texas staff to trust them with the rock this fall.
Yeah. I think it's, one of the comments I made, Rod, is, with all the coaching continuity on this staff, all the returning players, and then all the access to the players that were new during the spring and into the summer, the Longhorns started camp kind of on third base a little bit, to where, they were almost in scoring position, to where, we're not installing anything. Everybody knows where we're at. So we're working on manufacturing depth. We're working on Quinn being the leader every day. These are finite things. These are things that are going to be important to the long haul, to where, coaches like, let's just go with Michigan week 2. It's a brand new staff. They're dealing with distractions. They're trying to install new schemes, new offense, new defense. Those are huge advantages. You played in systems. You played in the National Football League. It's big to, hey, you're hitting camp, and but you're drilling down into the finer points of. When I hear you guys talk about Jelani McDonald and we have proven commodities over here, and we're experimenting with things. That's a luxury not every program has. To where these 4 weeks are critical for what's going to happen week 1. That's not the case with Texas. They're kind of thinking week, as you said, 17 potentially, of what do we look like in January? What do we look like in December? That's pretty big.
Yeah, they've had first world problems, like Coach Sark says, right? You're crying on a yacht right now if you're a Longhorn fan. But, obviously the CJ Baxter injury would be kind of your first slap in the face of, of kind of some real issues this season. And that's football, right? In a nutshell. CJ, you just brought it up. You had the CJ Baxter injury early on last year. Jonathan Brooks steps in, then Jonathan Brooks, he goes down. Other guys have to step up. You hope it's not going to be this early on in the season. And you hope it doesn't compound at one specific position. But this is what Sark has been, worried about. This is kind of what he has been building the roster for, in anticipation of a long, deep run into the postseason. And you're going to have to deal with some injuries. So hopefully for Cedric Baxter, it's not something that's going to have him out too long. Hopefully, it's just something that right now is going to be something he can overcome and get back this season. But if not, I always say coaches are problem solvers, man. And basically, your job is to solve problems every day. You're gonna have a new one or a new set of them, and you got to solve those problems. And at the end of the season, if you were, and you're not gonna always be right, by the way, sometimes you're gonna screw it up. But if you're right more often times than not, if you're right more than you are wrong, by the end of the season will add up, and then you'll have a successful season. But as a coach, you're solving problems. Like this may drive Texas to be more of a early down pass team. Yeah. Right, and CJ, you got some of those numbers. Sark may decide, all right, you know what, we ain't got CJ Baxter to hammer it on them early downs. That's not necessarily Jaden Blue's expertise and forte. So maybe we're gonna go to our heavy on our screen game on early downs, RPO game, which is high percentage passes on early downs, and we're gonna give it to our third year starting quarterback, and who was our Heisman Trophy candidate, and we're gonna put the game in his hands because we trust him and our veteran O-line with the 4 starters returning. And maybe that's so it does change. It depends on whatever Sark decides is the proper course of action, given the problems that you are presenting or the circumstance you are presented. Great quote from a NFL coach was, life and football are constant struggles deciding between what you want to be and what you need to be in order to survive. And everybody wants to be something in life, but hey, you got to pay bills, you got a family, you got obligations. So what you need to be is sometimes very different than what you want to be. And that's what happens in football and throughout the season. You got a vision for what you want to be. I want to be this on offense and this on defense. And you realize, damn, our corners can't cover. Okay, damn, we can't pass protect. We got some injuries popping up. So what I want to be and what I need to be are going to be very different. And I think that's the struggle every coach has to deal with.
Yeah. I wanted to chime in again. Will we get the results tonight from Hyambu Corrigan? I don't know. I'm not anticipating hearing what the severity of the injury was tonight. Again, I'm not a radiologist or whatever it is that goes through with these MRIs and X-rays and stuff. I don't understand how quickly these turnarounds are, or if there's a guy on site that will be able to decipher what the injury is right away. Normally, you're able to undergo an MRI with a knee injury to confirm your suspicions. Right now, I've not heard any suspicions of what this injury might be when it comes to the knee injury in itself. So I'm not yet, ready to say that we're going to hear something right now about CJ Baxter tonight. But we certainly will keep you updated here at On Texas Football when we hear something about CJ Baxter and his knee injury that occurred during the first padded practice of Texas fall camps this year.
Yeah. And let's also say it's medical information, so that's not going to be anything they can share until you know what I mean? It's one of those things. There's privacy laws that they've got to deal with, and let's cross your fingers. But again, as we started the conversation, almost an hour ago now, we hope it's not significant where it costs a young man his season. But either way, it's happened early in camp. So, if it's not, season ending, he could be back and get himself ready to go. And if it were to be something that, that bad, then you've got time to get somebody, more reps for other running backs in a very deep running back room. And that's what we'll cover here on the On Texas Football channel. Let me tell you about our friends at Autograph, the Autograph app. This is important for you guys out there. This is Feed Your Fandom. And use that code On Texas at Autograph. This is an app. There's an app for everything now, but this is the app that curates the best content, tickets, and gear to help you as a fan feel your fan to your full potential. Being a fan is a full-time job. Autograph does all the heavy lifting for you, from tickets for big matchups to the breaking news. Autograph app has curated content for fans of all things Texas, all the podcasts, articles, game predictions you could ever want, including On Texas Football, the shows that you watch, the replay feature that lets you get the day's news without the noise that you don't care about at all. So start your day. Use the On Texas app or the On Texas code there to download the free app on Google Play or in the App Store today. Feed your fandom. Tickets, content, fun. Feed your fandom at Autograph. The Autograph app. Use the code On Texas. Good looking banner there too. That is one of those, man, I wish I thought of that. That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart. Good job, Autograph. Good work by you. Put it all in one place, which is what Bobby and you guys have done at the On Texas Football channel too. Just give people what they want. That seems pretty simple in the world. And again, we do not know the severity of the injury of CJ Baxter. He's having an MRI. We'll find out when you find out, and or no, we will let you know what we know when we know it, and then you'll find out. It's one of those things that you can't rush that process. It may take till the morning, and let's hope the best for CJ Baxter. As for final thoughts, guys, and conversations into the rest of the week, CJ, you mentioned they're off tomorrow. I think there's another padded practice later in the week, and then the scrimmage Saturday. Do I have that right about the way the schedule goes?
Yeah, off tomorrow. We'll return on Thursday, and of course the first padded scrimmage, full live contact scrimmage of the fall camp will be Saturday as well. So again, right now we're hearing great things about the offense in the red zone. They had a great first day of pads, converting on a number of touchdowns. Isaiah Bond, DeAndre Moore each received a pair of touchdowns today. Arch Manning found the end zone, I was told, 2 or 3 times. That pretty loose at the moment, but Quinn Ewers also had a really impressive first showing in the red area too. So we'll see. Again, right now, the kind of waiting area in which where we sit now is on CJ Baxter in the news from his MRI, in which he was taken on his right knee earlier this afternoon.
Right knee. Any recruiting news, CJ? I know there's a bunch of 5-stars committing in the next week or so. What's the very latest on that?
Yeah, the big one that Texas fans will be keying in on. Well, there'll be 2. One will be Wednesday, tomorrow afternoon at noon. That will be Khalid Lockett, the 5-star, borderline 5-star wide receiver out of Saxe. He will be making his decision tomorrow, as well as DJ Sanders, the defensive lineman out of Bellevue, considering right now we believe to be Texas and Texas A&M with Michigan sitting on the outside. That will come on Thursday. Tomorrow, even with the down news of CJ Baxter getting dinged up tonight, there should be some fun news tomorrow on the recruiting trail as well, which hopefully will lift some spirits.
So you're feeling good about Khalid Lockett? Is that what I'm hearing? Your temperature, as Sark says, you got to set the temperature in the room. Sounds like you're setting the temperature in the room.
Hey, I just hope you guys can feel that one, right? Some positivity.
You're the thermometer, man. You're setting the temperature. You're setting the temperature.
Thermostat.
I like the thermostat. You're the thermostat. Sorry, thank you, Rod.
There you go.
I'm trying to get my sarcasms right. You know what I mean?
Gotta keep up with him, man. I've been keeping up with him. He's got some good ones. My favorite one, the new one, is crying on a yacht. I mean, I used that one like 4 or 5 times since he said it. I like that.
I've said it. I've been saying that to my buddies all the time now. I'm like, that's my favorite thing. Used to be first world problems, white man problems. Now it's like I'm crying on a yacht.
Yeah,
crying on a yacht.
Love that one.
Crying from the yacht. Good stuff right there. Khalid Lockett tomorrow, and then obviously On Texas Football will be your spot for all the latest. Saxe, Texas. That's one of those. How many suburbs are there in North Dallas Metroplex now? Like
too many.
Too many. They're everywhere. It's like this sprawling thing.
Former home of Devin Duvernay. So if you're looking for some Longhorn luck, maybe at the wide receiver spot, there you go.
I like Khalid that. Nice.
Lockett. Cool name too. And then the next day, and then Michael Fasusi later in the months, and obviously lock it in on the On Texas Football channel for all that. The Longhorns chasing 5-stars, chasing top players for the future, but right now they're working on the now, and we will keep our fingers crossed and eyes on the CJ Baxter news. Just tuning in here late, CJ Baxter did leave the field and the facility with a knee injury. Our reporting and On Texas Football has been he did not hear a pop. Which, again, take that for what it's worth. We'll see. Hope the best for young CJ Baxter, sophomore running back, who is going to be the starter for the Longhorns, and we'll follow that conversation moving forward. Guys, awesome stuff tonight. I know tomorrow morning coffee and football at 8 a.m., and the conversation never ends here on the On Texas Football channel. Thank you to Mark Saunders, your Allstate agent. You're in good hands with Mark Saunders on Allstate and the Autograph app. Make sure you download that. And Matthew and Rod and CJ. Guys, have a good night.
Welcome.